Juen Phie, what a way to start the day. That was
Absolutely.
fantastic, mate. A run and a sauna. I think I'm going to have like that inaugural sweat through the whole session. Okay, I want to talk to you about outsourcing. I know you've got a really awesome story. You've got a lot of experience in outsourcing, but I thought we'd start today just kind of going through your business journey, because I know you've had your fingers in a lot of pots over the year and you've got a lot of experience in different areas of business.
Yep.
So we could just dive into your journey. How'd you start? What businesses have you worked in? Stuff like that.
Sure. So, I guess a bit of background. So, when I went to university, I also concurrently studied accounting at the same time. So, by the time I finished university, I actually had my university degree, Bachelor of Commerce Accounting. I also had 3 years full-time work experience, so I worked full-time. And at the same time, I was crazy enough to actually do my chartered accounting as well.
Okay.
So normally you do it not concurrently, but back to back. So you finish your university, you get work experience, and then you go and do your chartered accounting.
So what's the difference? Because I don't know anything about this from the outside looking in.
Yep.
I see that some accounting firms have chartered in front of their names, but I don't know what that means.
Sure. So once you've done your degree, it's a postgraduate qualification. So it's a further study. It's almost like an MBA. But you need to be part of one of the accounting associations, whether it's CPA or the Chartered Accountants or the National Institute of Accountants, and then you can have your own accounting firm. So it's just a postgraduate qualification for accounting. And so 23 years old when I got all the study that you can actually do. That's where I ran away from the accounting profession. So I ran away.
After all that?
Yeah, because you get burnt out.
Yeah, okay.
Like you're not supposed to have done it that way. So that's where I ran away from accounting and got married at the time, and then went to Malaysia. So my wife is Malaysian, and she hadn't been back for about 5 years. So I thought it was a good idea, take a break from accounting, go to Malaysia.
Like moved or on holiday?
Oh, don't know. It was uncertain.
Book a ticket.
Book a ticket, went back, and in the end stayed there for 4 years. We had saved up some money and toyed around with the idea of setting up a business in Malaysia. And
Sorry, what were you doing at the time?
Toyed with the idea of setting up a business in Malaysia.
But what were you doing before you set up the business, as far as work?
Nothing.
Okay.
So I just went to Malaysia with this idea of doing a business.
Yeah, awesome.
Trying to recreate Boost Juice.
Yeah.
Do the Boost Juice concept in Malaysia.
Wow.
I had a little bit of money, and that's when I realised just because you're an accountant doesn't mean you know anything about business.
Yeah, okay.
Just because you're an accountant doesn't mean you've got the balls to actually invest your own money in the business.
Yeah.
Because accounting comes ezy, and it's time versus money.
It's one of the many things.
It's cash flow positive day one.
Yep.
If you do it, you don't have much risk. So realised, oh shit, didn't have the balls to sink my money into a business. Then walked around saying to people, what else can I do? So this is where if you go to Malaysia and you say, what else can I do? I want to do business. Then everyone looks on your forehead, commission sales agent.
Yeah, okay. So, I'm very curious about, so how far did you get along the line with this Boost Juice? Like, did you made a business plan and stuff like that?
I got a business plan, started looking at suppliers, started looking at site locations, got close to...
And then reality sunk in and you went, oh,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah. That's where when the rubber meets the road, if you're not destined for it, then you're not destined for it. So what then happened after that was did a couple of years selling property, selling multi-level marketing, Amway, and just selling. And the last thing that I sold was real estate. So I was also, here you are, a qualified chartered accountant in Malaysia, trying to sell property in a busy subway, in a busy shopping centre, in a busy bank, trying to sell. And that's where I started learning the art of selling.
A very steep learning curve.
Yeah, because that was all commission. Then after that, I attended a conference that was all about how do you set up a business with little or no money.
I just want to dive back. What do you think you got out of that sales training? Because sales is such an important fucking skill. And I think it really touches on kind of all aspects of your life. Like, you know, being able to have conversations with people, I think is the main thing that I got out of selling. And it just, it improves kind of everything in your whole life. I think learning to sell is so important if you want to do anything.
So the journey of sales, that first stint at sales was all about hard, high-pressure sales.
Okay.
You cannot let them leave the booth without signing a contract. No, you can't leave.
Yep.
You got to stay. No, you can't leave. You got to stay. That property is good for you. Sign it on a dotted line right now. No, you can't catch your train.
Yeah.
No, you can't go home. No, you can't see the property.
And that's the nature of the industry, I would imagine.
Well, that's just what it was, learning through that system of selling.
Wow.
So after attending this conference about how do you set up a business with little or no money, so why wouldn't you, right? That sounds fantastic. I then got into, then I approached the person who ran those workshops at that time, and I approached him and said, look, I'm in Malaysia, I'm not doing anything. Well, I am trying to do something, but I don't know what I'm doing, but I haven't heard anyone say the things that you've been saying. Can I just shadow you? Can I be your apprentice? And so he was like, yeah, okay.
Just out of curiosity, is this the bloke that I met over in Malaysia?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes, so he was very formative. So he took me down the journey of the next round of selling. So I then went down the pathway of being his apprentice, and he had some businesses. He was a serial entrepreneur. He had some businesses that weren't doing too well, and it was our job to turn those businesses around. And so we did successfully. And that's where we started learning his way of selling. His way of selling was very educational. His way of selling it wasn't ever a pressure. It was always a decision making. This is option one, this is option two, whatever you want is up to you. But it's also what I've now, Robert Cialdini, he had this book called The Psychology of Influence, but he's also got this book about the persuasion, how to persuade someone so that you pre-sell them before the moment to sell them.
Okay.
So he was actually very good at that, of staging the seminar, staging the presentations, staging everything, so that by the time the decision time came, it was already, yes, it was time to make a decision. So it was a lot more soft selling than hard selling. So I got to see both sides of that. So this is where...
it's so interesting. So this guy just had a bunch of businesses and a few of them had issues, and you went in and tried to turn those around.
Because if you want to turn around any business, you can't do it by cost cutting. You can't do it from an accounting point of view. Accountants don't see it. Mm-hmm. The only way to turn around a business that's struggling is through sales. Mm-hmm. It was like revolution.
Yeah.
Like, you can see it on paper, but what does it mean? And the struggle it takes to actually do it. Not easy.
Yeah.
The struggle it takes to actually go out there and sell to make that business work. That's it. Rubber meets a road. If you can't do it, that's it. You're gone.
Yeah. I'm always envious of some businesses. Like, so my business is exactly the same. Like, my limit to growth is all sales. You see some businesses, like, I feel like a lot of trade businesses, like electrical businesses and stuff like that, they're limited by there's so much work out there, they're limited by staff and stuff like that.
It's funny. This is where the accounting hat comes
I'm probably pissed off a lot of electricians by saying that.
Even though the work is out there, the biggest issue then becomes efficiency of labour, efficiency of systems, efficiency.
Yeah, well, so
there's a lot of trades that actually still don't make money.
Well, spot on, because they're not in a niche. Yeah, you need to have a high level of efficiency because you've got 500 other people gnawing at your footsteps. So the game becomes something very different at that stage.
Correct. So one of the businesses. So my mentor at the time went through a partnership split, and he just turned around to me one day.
Business or personal?
Business.
Yep.
So his business went to a partnership split, and then he basically turned around one day and said, "Look, Juen, I'm starting again. I'm starting from fresh. I know you spent a lot of time in this business. Up to you if you want to stay with him or come with me. Up to you. Or you want to do your own thing. The choice is yours. I'm just letting you know as of tomorrow, I'm not part of this. And so we had to make our own decision what we wanted to do. And so we followed him. We followed him, and we saw how he rebounded overnight all through sales.
Okay.
Went from zero to $1 million basically. Like, it was amazing. So in that whole entire process, he also went to us and said, look, Juen, you have now proven yourself as a good apprentice. Now you've graduated. If you wanted to be a business partner, happy to be a business partner.
Okay, so were you salaried at the time?
No.
So what were you? How were you making?
Commission.
Okay.
If we didn't make a sale, we didn't get paid.
So you were almost a contractor sales to him.
Yeah, correct.
But also, I guess, was it outspoken that he was kind of it was a mentor-mentee relationship?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, very much.
Yeah.
Very much. So in the end, we proposed to him a business called Character Forever. Character Forever, we identified a niche market in Malaysia at the time, which was Malaysians wanted their kids to grow up smart and successful. They would send their kids to a lot of tuition school, but they wouldn't send their kid, but they would just grow up to become smart delinquents because they didn't have any character, because their parents were too busy going off working. They weren't home to parent.
Okay, so
and teach them.
so they get a high level of education, but they didn't have the other aspects. Yep.
So we proposed to Thomas this concept where what we do is we set up a business, and the business was gonna be all about character building, teaching people value, trustworthiness, courage, respect.
Wow.
Teach them all the things that parents don't necessarily teach at home because they're just too busy. And so, same sort of philosophy of no money down, sell the idea. Proposed to a few different people. Here's an idea. We didn't lie to them. We just said to them, this is a pure idea. We don't know if it's going to work or not, but this is how we're going to string it along on how we're going to, do the children's side, how we're going to do the centre side, how we're going to do the marketing side. If you like the idea, buy a business. So it's basically like a franchise, but pre-franchise. We just tell them we don't really have a system, right?
It's a ballsy idea.
It's just an idea.
Yeah.
If you want to back us, buy a franchise, and we'll try to do the other side to it. So here we are, 23, 24, actually more like 25. Just had my first child, running a children's business.
That's a scary time.
Yeah, so ultimately we did fail, and ultimately that was then the next round of learning. The next round of learning was, Juen, I ended up crying to my mentor at the time, and I said, this is all failing, what do I do? And he basically just said to me, Juen, you're not cut out for business. Pack your bags, go home. You're an accountant, go. And so that's where, took his advice and went back to Adelaide, basically. At the time, we also just had our first child in Malaysia.
Yeah.
And we had to have that decision on whether we want to raise our children.
Yeah.
And so together with that, we then made that journey back to Australia.
I feel that's a really scary time as a man. I'll speak for myself, whereas let's say I remember feeling it a lot when my daughter was born, right? Just like the fear of getting stuck, because obviously children are expensive, right? There's a fear of getting stuck in this cycle, which I feel that I saw a lot of parents when I was a kid get into, where your expenses go up and up and up, and then you are trapped because you need the security of a job, and they just never get off this a treadmill of renting and stuff like that. So that was the time of my life when I was working like fucking crazy because I just had the fear in me. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So leading up to that point, if you sort of look at how I went through high school, how I went through university, I actually didn't really fail. Things just came naturally to me.
So
why? I don't know. But accounting came naturally to me. So my old boss at the time, David Sen, he said to me within the first 3 months of being employed, he said, Juen, you're special. You're just picking up all of these things naturally. I've never employed someone who was this talented in accounting. I'm like, I'm an undergrad. What are you talking about? I don't know what I'm doing. He goes, no, Juen, you're special. And so to get through that university years, working full time, studying full time, and at the same time doing my chartered accounting subjects, it just came natural. Yes, you did long hours, but you got through it.
Mm-hmm.
You just got through it. You worked overtime, you worked late nights. You just got through it. You just didn't miss a beat. I didn't fail a subject. It just worked. So Malaysia became this whole getting kicked in the guts and my first biggest failure.
So there's a couple of things I want to dive into. I want to go into the framing of that failure, but the first thing I want to ask about is how valuable, looking back, do you see kind of the mentor-mentee relationship or having a mentor, right? So I'll just dive into why I think that's interesting. I really struggled in the early days of the business. I've spoken to you about this before, but I would consider myself one of those businesses who is a skilled technician who went into business because they go, oh, I'm a skilled technician. I should be able to run a business. But then not having any of the business skills required, and it just led to burnout and stress. And then like my biggest win or my biggest catalyst of success, I guess you could say, is joining EO. Yeah. And it's because you've just got peers as mentors, right? Correct. We spoke about this before. A lot of my friends now are in business and we catch up and we talk about, oh, what are you doing? I've got friends who have businesses that I call and go and unload like, oh, this fucking employee did this. So and that has just catapulted me both into, I guess, the next level of business, growth, but also operating from a point of, I guess, comfort, not a point of, nervous breakdown every 3 weeks. So I just wanted to so I never had that mentor relationship, and I kind of wanted to know how valuable you saw that part of your life as to your success now.
Yep. I would say that it was a huge factor, this whole search for someone to be a mentor has been my whole entire journey. Even when working with my old boss, David, I looked up to him like it was hard to leave him because that mentor relationship was there. And then going on to Malaysia, my in the first role of selling property, that was a big mentor of mine. That was my wife's cousin, Uncle Mike, and so he mentored in that first phase of selling, and then Thomas Hong in the second phase of selling. Like having that person beside you is just invaluable, and it was something that I had always craved, in my childhood and everything, always wanting that person to actually teach me. Like I grew up in a single parent household. My mum raised us by herself, and there's always this missing piece. And so having this mentor was the missing pieces at different points in time. So yes, having come back from Malaysia, always had a missing hole. There was always a missing piece along the way. And so this is where coming to EO then fills that missing piece of having mentors.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, the other one I want to touch on is, I guess, the framing of failure, right? So, I mean, it's interesting you had that, say, mentor tell you, you're not cut out for business because it sounds like you framed the failure as, this is over. Or I guess I just wanted to touch on, like, how did you frame the failure of that initial business at the time and versus how do you frame it now? Is there a difference? How do you look back and see that?
So one of the core values that we have in our business today is taking the punches and keep bouncing back.
Fuck yeah.
So it doesn't matter how brutal the punch is and how hard the punch is. You've got to step back up. It's not how many times you get knocked down, it's how many times you step up.
Fuck yeah, I love that.
And some of the feedback has to be raw. It has to be real. If it's not real enough, it's not really a teachable moment. It's not a teachable lesson. I carry that until today in all the other businesses that so every failure, so this is only, call it 2 failures in, right? There's been so many other failures along the way that when I look at business today and when I advise clients today, I hold all of that to heart, where I would just tell a client, I don't think this is suitable for you. This is not right for you. I don't think this is going to work. Go do something else. You're just going to fail. Don't go through my process of failure because there's heartbreak and a lot of money you're going to waste. Just go and do something else because I can see it. And Thomas saw it. Thomas saw me as a talented accountant. Go back to accounting. So when I left my boss, David Sen, he left me with a partnership offer. So I always had a partnership offer in hand. And so I just went back to him and I said, Dave, is this still real? Can I come back to you? And he said, yeah, I'd love for you to come back to me. And so I went back to him and I stayed with him for 2 years before venturing out on my own.
Awesome.
Yeah. So
what next? I know you have I know, from talking to you previously, you've got a handful of interesting businesses you've come in and out of. So
correct. So when I started my own accounting firm in 2009, it's with this background of sales, marketing, business development, and bringing together accounting, which comes very naturally to me. So those 2 conversations that you're having with clients is actually quite powerful, because that's growth-orientated conversations that you're having with clients on how do you grow, how do you do things, how do you change your positioning, how do you change. So there's a lot of that involved. So one of my clients, I won't name names, but he ended up having an investment in a burger shop in Adelaide. And at the time, his business partner just packed up shop. They had an issue. He just packed up shop and said, look, I'm going. Wash my hands, I'm going. And so in the process of just washing his hands and walking off, he reached out to me and said, Juen, I'm in Melbourne. I can't run this business. I can't control it. I can't even open up shop. I don't know what to do. Do you mind stepping in as my accountant and just holding the fort for a little bit? And so that's what I did. So
it's a ballsy move.
Yeah. So, I just helped out and just helped out. And I thought it was fun. I thought it was, how cool is this? I get to flex some, some of this stuff that I used to have in Malaysia and I get to play around again in business. I thought, this is really cool. And so this client then ended up raising a bit of money to expand the burger shop because...
So it was going well?
So at that stage when, I don't know if you spend much time on the parade, but at the time we had Nordburger and that was it. We only had Nordburger and we were going through this crazy, massive boom in burgers. Right now you have Betty Burger,
yeah,
you have Grilled Burger, you have a lot of these burger shops coming up everywhere. So we were in Adelaide, call it the second burger brand that popped up. And we wanted to capitalise on it, raise $1 million, and to set up 2 new, swanky, brand new, bright, beautiful shops.
They're still around, aren't they?
Some of the brands are around,
yeah, okay.
but the burger brand that we set up isn't around.
Oh, okay.
We rode the wave on the eastern suburbs well because Grilled didn't affect us, Nordburger didn't affect us, Fancy Burger didn't affect us. So the local the local competition didn't affect us, but it was all the suburban competition that affected us because customers would come across Adelaide to come to us.
Gotcha.
But when they could start going to burger joints in their local neighbourhoods, now that started to affect us.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so this is where we had 2 shops, one in McGill, the other one in Torrensville, 2 sides of town, and that didn't work. The sales just dropped virtually overnight.
Wow.
And we couldn't sustain that. The next thing as well was during that whole period of spinning out of control, one of the best things that's happened is that I was also being the bookkeeper of the burger shop. I didn't want my team in Australia to be the bookkeeper of the burger shop because I'm like, you know what? I want you to be revenue producing. I didn't want you to be cost to me.
Yeah, correct.
So I started doing the bookkeeping, but at the same time, I'm like, you know what? I don't have time to do the bookkeeping. why don't I engage a outsourcing company to hire me someone in Philippines to do the bookkeeping? So hired Rachel, my first staff in the Philippines.
And that was through an agency.
Through an agency.
An agency or a recruiter?
Agency.
So you were paying the agency was paying staff.
Correct.
Yep.
Correct. So I paid an agency to recruit me someone to see if they can do bookkeeping, and they did bookkeeping immensely. Right. She did bookkeeping immensely, and straight away my business mind started spinning and going, shit, let me see if I can teach you Australian tax. Great. So then I started diversifying her time between bookkeeping for a burger shop and accounting.
Okay. So and how did you teach her Australian tax? Just one-on-one?
Just one-on-one.
Yep.
I've always taught...
You haven't built a system or anything at this stage?
No.
Yep.
And I've always taught everyone one-on-one, and I typically always had hired graduates, even back in the old firm, always just hired graduates. So that whole teaching one-on-one was just natural to me.
Yeah. We can get into this, but you showed me you do have a training platform.
Nowadays.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, nowadays. At the time, didn't have the foresight of that.
Yep.
But then very earlier on, then started putting in place the videos for them to teach other people.
Cool.
So this is where I built myself up. So you got to understand, this is all before Burger Foundry failed.
This is before, okay.
So before we eventually shut it down, I started hiring in the Philippines, and then I got to a team of 3. And this is where...
And the team of 3, they were working for your accounting firm mainly?
Yes.
Yeah. And they were all through an agency?
No.
Okay.
So I negotiated with the agency. I'm going to find the second person, and we'll put the second person through the agency, but they're mine because I found them. But I just want you to handle the payroll. For the first one, I had a buyback clause, and I told the agency I'm going to buy her back, and go direct, because I can see that I could recruit and go direct by myself through the first hire. But the second hire, I just want to keep it simple, and from the third hire onwards, I went direct, and they were cool with that. So
well, they can't stop you.
Yeah, they can't stop me.
What are they going to do?
But I was open with them about that.
Yeah.
And they gave their blessings on that. So it's all transparent. So when I got to 3 staff overseas in Philippines, I had about 6 here in Adelaide, and that's where, with everything spinning out of control, we in the accelerator program in the People's Day, we do this Mission to Mars exercise.
Yep, just for anyone listening, Juen and I are part of Entrepreneurs Organisation, and they have an accelerator program which is to take people from $400,000 revenue to $1.6 million revenue. That's what he's talking about.
So at that stage...
so you were in the accelerator?
No, I just came as a visitor.
Okay, gotcha.
I came as a visitor, and I didn't join for another 12 months.
Mm-hmm.
But when I came as a visitor, I came and we did the Mission to Mars exercise. And the Mission to Mars exercise asks 2 key questions. If you were to go to Mars, unknown planet, with unknown challenges, who would you take to Mars and why? Who would you take to Mars became your A players. Why became your company values.
Oh, wow. That's an interesting way.
Okay.
Yeah.
So who would I take to Mars? I only wrote down my 3 Filipino names. Why became my company values and has been until today. And so the values are a team of underdogs that keeps on winning. I don't want losers in my team. I want winners in my team. And I want winners. I'm not talking about people who are bright and smart. I'm talking about underdogs. People who people say, shit, I don't think you can do it. But by and by, they then amazingly triumph, you know?
Yeah.
So a team of
motivated,
underdogs,
tenacious.
Yep.
Yeah.
A team of underdogs that keeps on winning, battlers that takes the punches and never gives up. And then there was a third one, but that was the main 2.
Mm-hmm. What was the second one, sorry?
Battlers that takes the punches and keeps bouncing.
Yeah. I see a theme.
So you know, this was pretty much the embodiment of the Filipino culture. There's a third one. The third one will come. And so this became the catalyst for me to let go of everyone in Australia and continue to hire them in the Philippines.
So it was a real moment of clarity.
Well, in that time when everything was going wrong, everything was spinning out of control, the team in Philippines were the ones that actually had my back, were the ones that helped me get through all my, you know, health issues. You know, they were the team that helped me keep my marriage together. They were the team that, you know, made sure that I had money in the bank.
They were there when things mattered.
They were there when things mattered. Because, you know, there's a large part of the culture in Australia which is just do the bare bones minimum. And that's how it felt. You know, my manager at the time, you know, I won't bag her. I won't bag her at all. You know, if she ever listens to this podcast, she was one of the best things that has ever happened to me. I look back at the time and we got along so well. But the thing is, I had a vision for her. The vision was, and I kept on telling her this vision, like the vision was, I'm going to have a team offshore, I'm going to teach and train them, and they're going to be able to do 70-80% of what you can do in Australia, so that you can be a partner with me in my accounting firm. You can do advisory, you can help win clients, because she was winning clients. She was getting bonuses for winning clients. She was doing really, really good. And once I had trained up the team well enough that they could do enough of her role, I turned around to her one day and I said to her, okay, you can actually, the team can do 70% of what you can do. What would you like to do now? And this is, you know, when we went for a run earlier on, I shared with you why I love being part of the Key Executive Program, because I can learn and understand what I've done wrong over time to my key executives. And, you know, the common trait is I didn't somehow convey the vision, mission well enough. I'll take that as my failure, because she thought I was pushing her out of a job. I thought I was trying to make her a business partner. You can see that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And maybe my messaging and maybe my tone wasn't clear enough. And I've got to look back and just take that on myself and say, that's my fault.
Yeah.
You know, so
That's interesting.
She ended up, we split. She split on good terms, but I know that it scarred us both mentally because we were so close.
Okay.
We were so close.
And that was a manager in Australia. So how many staff did you have at the time? You said 6 in Australia, 3 in the Philippines?
Yep, so roughly about 9.
And you made the decision to terminate the entire workforce in Australia?
Well, when they resigned, I just didn't hire them back.
Oh, so they all resigned?
They just gradually resigned. Because
and then you slowly started?
When you've got people in the Philippines who can do 60, 70, 80% of what someone in Australia can do, your expectation of any Australian employee increases.
Okay.
Because, hey, I can get 70% done in offshore. If I'm going to pay you 3 times as much,
there better be value.
You got to be valuable. If not, there's no reason for me to have you.
Yeah, okay.
So that became, unfortunately, my mindset at the time. And I then kept on hiring. So I got to about 20 staff in the Philippines.
God, that escalated quick.
And I had 0 in Australia. I just let them go. I didn't, if they wanted to resign, I didn't try to. So basically, out of Philippines, we do compliance work, which is tax returns, the bookkeeping work, and our admin. So all our admin gets done in the Philippines. To cross the final hurdle of bringing admin back to Philippines, I brought 2 of my good senior employees, Paul and Dolly, to Adelaide, and they spent 2 weeks with me just learning the admin process, learning everything, to bring it back to Philippines and to implement a lot of the systems. Back then, I wasn't smart enough in either process mapping or process documentation through checklists. I wasn't smart enough. I was still the boss where I just want you to do it.
Yeah.
Here, I'll teach you with my hands. I'll show you with my hands. I just want you to do it. I wasn't quite smart enough to see the steps involved.
Well, and look, I think that's a natural, you spoke before about kind of being a natural with accounting and stuff like that. I actually think that's a common trait of people that are just naturally good at things. You just expect everybody else to kind of easily pick it up, right? And then when they don't, you get frustrated and it turns into a thing. So I think that one of the biggest steps you can make is coming to that realization and realizing that, no, these need to be documented.
Correct. So natural I'm great at teaching. I'm a great coach, great at doing, but there was a step that I wasn't good at, which is process documentation. I'm much better nowadays. It's the first thing I do.
It's hard because it's such a painful process.
But if you do it often enough, you learn how to shortcut it. Mm-hmm. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect. You just got to put it down, and then you can refine it over time.
Yeah, look, that's the hardest thing. It's going from zero to something, and then you can constantly refine.
Yeah, so right now we've picked up a large bookkeeping job, very big bookkeeping fees. He's got about 30 entities, like, it's big. Step one, day one, what I do is process map it. ... Someone else can build upon it later. But without the skeletons of a process map, no one else can take over. You can't delegate. If you can't delegate, you can't improve. If you can't improve, you're going to always be doing the work. So that process mapping is just something I do day one, day dot, and I make sure everyone in the whole team knows how to do it. Even from a graduate, even from someone who's been with me for only 2 weeks, they're going to start to learn how to write in their notebook, step by step, what they're doing. Because that step by step, what they're doing is actually a checklist.
Yeah.
It's actually the cornerstone of a process. So we make sure within 2 weeks they're building upon those skills.
Yeah, I know. I'm about to ask you if you've read Systemology, but you know somebody who implements Systemology, right? Yeah, a great book, and it just kind of goes through, find your best staff member and just get them to document exactly what they do. You can build on that. So don't build the system how you think it would go. Build it how your best staff already does it. Right? Start with that.
So I actually take it to a different level, right? Because what you tend to have when you have your best staff, and if they're resistant to change, they're going to be resistant on process mapping because they're worried about the job, you see? Okay. So what you do is that best staff has to train someone. And then that person that you're training is the one that has to bullet point, dot point, and create a process map.
Okay.
Because the first one's not going to do it because they're going to always say, I'm too busy.
So, I mean, the way I've got around that is going, how you go away for a week and then you come back and there's a pile of things for you to do?
Yep.
I'm trying to eliminate that, okay? So we need to start processing. That's my go-to.
Yep.
Yeah.
So what we also do is day one, do video recording.
Okay.
Here's a video recording of the senior training a junior, and within whatever period of time, that junior needs to have documented.
So that video recording, right? So I've found, we do a lot of quality control procedures on products, and I've found quite quickly if you ask the staff to video the process, it quite quickly gets way bigger than it needs to be, and they turn it into a huge thing, and everything needs to be perfect. So kind of, how do you combat that? Because I've gone, I'd do this, and they end up doing, it takes them hours and hours because they want to do the editing and stuff like that.
Yep. So we never do videos that are only video training. We do live videos. So for example, it'll just be right now. We can just turn on a computer right now, open up Loom, and I'll show you a process, and that's it. It's a live process that someone needs to document, not let me go off, let me study this process and come back with the perfect solution, because there is nothing perfect.
Well, it's a
in the
balance,
world.
right? Because if that's not the way you do it, there's so much of a resistance. People think there's so much to set up, and it gets too difficult to the point that nobody does it, right?
Yeah.
So there's a balance in making sure it's educational, but also, yeah, if you go too far, you'll do one video and you'll be burnt out and you'll never do it again.
And what we say is, on a live recording, you might have pre-prepared chapters or modules, but every video should be max 15, 20 minutes.
Yep.
So you're sort of doing a video according to chapters that you can put together on a website to say module 1, module 2, module 3.
Yep.
Because anything more than 15, 20 minutes, one, takes too long, and two, they're not going to retain it.
Yeah, gotcha. So, I mean, inspired by kind of what you've showed me in the past, I'm starting an MSc university, or I guess what you say.
Great.
Yeah, and the way I've started it so far, I'm just in the beginning stages, but I'm building PowerPoint, and then I'm doing Loom videos over PowerPoint, where I basically just speak, the PowerPoint will be real basic, and I'll just speak on topics.
Yep.
Yeah, and then we're kind of building a framework around that, and I want to get a system put in where, like, let's say a new staff, you've got to do one course a week, and I can see whether they've completed that course,
Yep,
right?
yep.
And it's like, you've got a KPI within the first 3 months. You've got to finish this, and this, and then I can see whether they've completed that, and then they don't have the excuse that I haven't told them how to do something. I haven't trained them properly, because previously it was just me one-on-one, time and time again. And the amount of time that you put into every new staff member is a lot. And then when you lose them, you cry yourself to sleep, because it's cost you so much money to train.
Right.
So the idea is, basically taking, I guess, the cost out of that process. So it's, easy to find new people. And if somebody's not working, it's easier to kind of replace them, if that makes sense.
Correct.
Yeah.
100%. So yeah, just going back onto the business journey, when you look at the team and what the team did for me during those really, really horrible period of my life, that really gives me that big sense of, you know what, I really want to give back to them. So I explain it to people, and I say to people, it's like if you were to have donated your kidney to me. Let's say both my kidneys were stuffed, and you donated your kidney to me. How on earth would I try to say thank you to you for you willingly giving me your kidney? So I could try to give you money, I could try to say thank you, or I could try to repay you for the rest of my life, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
If I just said, oh, hey, thanks for giving me your kidney, how much is it worth? Can I give you $100,000 for it? You're going to go, Juen, I never gave you my kidney to you for money.
So it sounds, I mean, the way you're speaking about it, it's quite passionate. It sounds like these people were really fundamental in kind of your, I don't want to say survival, but, you keeping sanity through this period.
Oh, they were there to make sure that I earned money. They were there that eventually I got better in my health, and I didn't get divorced. And, mentally I was a wreck. So I went to psychology sessions and, got myself more, resilient, in everything. So there's a big give back. There's a big give back in everything I'm doing, even until today. Everything's just a massive give back. It hurts me, it pains me that the people that were with me during that time, some of them are no longer with me, because they're the ones that I want to better give back. Look, it doesn't change my vision. It doesn't change the fact that the people who join me today will still get the opportunity to benefit from this vision. They're the lucky ones. They didn't have to go through the hard yards of how this whole... They didn't have to go through the hard yards of me learning about business and life.
Didn't live through the chaos.
They didn't have to live through the chaos. But, they'll be there and they will be rewarded. So what does this give back look like? So I say my life was transformed because of them. So it's only right that I transform their life. Transforming the life of someone in Philippines has been something that I've been thinking a lot, because you can't just give them money. You can't give them money.
Why?
They'll just spend it. Just like in Australia, if I just gave you an extra 100 grand today, you probably buy a new car. You probably take a holiday. It's only gonna.
So what do you mean when you say you want to change their life? What does that mean to you?
The only way that I can see that I can transform someone's life is to give them too much money.
Yeah.
That it's transformative enough.
Okay.
Because at some point, there's a bracket creep.
Yeah.
When you get to a certain point, you've got too much money that you can't spend it. You can't physically spend too much money. After that, you got too much money that you can do whatever you want now.
Okay.
Then you go, oh, sheesh, how are you going to do that for someone in the Philippines? Doesn't that sound like it's unrealistic? The only way that I have seen that this can actually happen is through co-ownership of businesses outside of accounting.
Okay.
So this brings to the next phase of my journey, which is so this next phase of my business journey is to basically look for businesses that I can actually co-own, and in the process of co-ownership, a portion of my ownership will go towards them and their future as a collective. So there's a big movement overseas that's slowly coming to Australia. It's called employee ownership trusts.
Mm.
It's where ownership in your business is held by basically a discretionary trust. It's not discretionary to your family members, it's discretionary to the employees. And so that's what effectively the ownership is going to be. So this is where, again, I then went in Philippines, through going to Philippines by networking and meeting people. I started looking at opportunities in Philippines to invest in, because quite rightly, if you've got a team in Philippines and you've got no one in Australia, and this team of Philippines can get the work done and can advise clients and can do great things for you in accounting, you're making money. There's no question about it. You're making money. So if I'm making money and I've got this vision of transforming their future through co-ownership in businesses, it's a natural step to bringing my money to Philippines and investing in businesses in Philippines. So we toyed around with franchises. So we bought some 7-Elevens in Philippines, and having them managed by my team of accountants, because you're buying a system, you're buying a franchise, and my managers in accounting, I can pay them so that they can also manage the 7-Eleven retail shops. So 7-Eleven in Philippines is actually a really, really hard business. It's a hard business because you actually have no control. You have no say, you have no control. You're in the back seat all the time.
You're talking about because of the franchise model, or why do you have no control?
The franchise model is franchise to the extreme.
Yeah, gotcha. So
in Australia, you've got a little bit more say over what you do and how you do things.
Mm-hmm.
Over there, you literally have no say.
It's like almost like to the level of like McDonald's or something like that. You have to do exactly what to put on your plate.
I'm okay if you did exactly what they had to say, but you've always got a bit of discretion.
Okay.
So the discretion is in the world of marketing. You want to grow your own franchise? Fine. In Australia, you are encouraged to grow your own franchise, because I've got clients who own franchises and they're the ones that make a lot of money, the ones that actually take initiative to do their own marketing and not rely on the franchisor.
Yep.
Because that's what sales and marketing is. This is what my whole journey in Philippines is all about. You only make money if you are in sales and marketing. So there I am trying to do all of these marketing campaigns for my retail shops to go through a 6 months approval process to get told no.
Oh, fuck.
It was painful.
Yeah.
So one store was doing decent because they had a good, decent population. Then another store We were getting hit with local factors around our shop where the bridge was under construction, didn't open for 6 months. The school stopped letting out the kids for lunch breaks. Right behind us, the landlord just opened up more shops that started competing against us. A direct competition, we just got...
And then your hands are tied in how you can react to those situations because of the franchise model.
React.
Yeah.
Couldn't react at all. And so this is where I let that, we've now given them back to the franchisor.
You've got rid of them?
We've got rid of them already at a loss, unfortunately. We just got them off our hands. Just not worth the time for us to keep on looking at and keep on managing that headache. Just not worth it.
Yeah.
So the next iteration was to look at massage business. So we looked at massage business in the Philippines. Lo and behold, these two hands can actually massage quite well. And we looked down the process of bringing Australian remedial massage to the Philippines. Good as a concept, but at the same time, lost some money on that because, being able to recruit, train massage therapists and retain them, I was able to train them up quite well that they could actually deliver very, very good Australian standard massage quality in the Philippines, managed to get good success. However, just couldn't retain them. There's a retention problem.
Why?
They raft of reasons, but we're dealing with people who were quite poor, and they don't necessarily have the mindset to work. They have, they didn't have the work ethics to work. They're happy to be paid basic salary just to sit around and massage one or two people every now and then. They didn't have the mindset to handle back-to-back 7-8 people. As things
pick up.
Yeah. So this is where we couldn't handle that, and so that's where we scaled back. So this is where my vision of what partnership looks like became different. My vision of I'm only going to partner up with people who are subject matter experts in their field. I'm not going to partner up with, let's say, my accounting firm staff to run a business that they're not subject matter experts in.
Yeah, so someone like what I was saying, what I consider myself as, like I'm a skilled technician or a subject matter expert.
Correct.
But didn't necessarily have the business skills.
Correct.
To be able to make the rubber hit the road.
Correct. So our business model is to now search and find people like yourselves that we can take equity position in, and whatever equity position I take in, I can then share that with my team in Philippines.
Okay, and then there's a value relationship because you're adding the business knowledge, and I don't know, finances potentially, and they're adding the subject
Correct.
matter expert.
So this is where we do what we do best. We're good accountants. We're not retail operators. We're not massage therapists. We are bloody good accountants, and that is a scalable team that can help scale any other business out there from the finance function point of view.
Yep.
So this is where in the Philippines we've gotten involved in a construction company, not without its challenges, but with the ability to scale. So we only want to be involved in businesses that can truly scale through our involvement. If there is no scalability, we'll just be their accountant.
Mm-hmm.
We won't take equity, we won't invest. So in the Philippines, we're talking about a business that can go from talking about Aussie dollars, right? Taking them from a 400,000 Aussie dollar turnover to a $2 million Aussie dollar turnover within 12 months. That's great scale. If we can get them to 4 mil to 2 mil, then we can get them to 2 mil to 10 mil. Mm-hmm. That scalability is easy. There's that, and then just looking at what else we can look towards here in Australia.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I want to dive into. I've spoken to you a lot about outsourcing, and you've been very helpful for me, kind of on my outsourcing journey. I say the word journey too much. My outsourcing path. So I just wanted to dive into a few tips. I mean, one of the hardest, or a couple of the hardest things for me have been recruiting, right? Yep. Finding good staff.
Yep.
And then also the cultural difference. So I'm wondering whether you could kind of dive into a few learnings from your experiences in both of those subjects.
Sure. So recruiting for staff is actually very easy. If you want, I'm more than happy to help you out on that.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of businesses are focused only on the client. One of the times I went to one of the EO learning days, we had at the end of every learning day, we've actually got a panel speaker. It's a panel speaking session, and one of the panel speakers at the time, I can't remember who it is, they said that you fluctuate between looking for clients and looking for staff. Looking for clients, looking for staff. You need to, when you go for staff, have a deliberate marketing strategy for staff. And when you look for clients, you need to have a deliberate marketing strategy for looking for staff. So that was a bit of an aha moment. That was like, oh, wow, I need a marketing strategy to look for staff. So right now we've got a Facebook page. And the Facebook page either posts about the business or it posts about the staff. Two very, very completely separate posting strategies. If it's posting about the business, it's all about business, how good we are, how good we are, how good we are. If it's posting about the staff, it's all about how good our culture is, how much fun we have, what such an amazing place that we have. So all we've got to do is put out a job ad, and just post it.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of people that is now shared upon is amazing.
Yeah, okay. So you advertise through your own Facebook?
Yep, we advertise through our own channel.
Yeah.
So one of the other EO members said to me, oh, Juen, I actually need access to admin staff. I'm finding it hard to find admin staff. I go like, did you want our leads?
Yeah.
Where like in the last, I don't know, weekend, we've given them 10 admin resumes.
Yeah. And then what about the interviewing process? What are you looking for?
So first round interview, it's all about whether or not they can communicate well and if they've got a bubbly enough personality.
Okay.
Second interview is all about culture.
Can we dive into that? What do you mean by communicate well and what do you mean by bubbly personality?
Can they just speak good English? Can they get the message across?
Yep.
If they can't, cut them out, move on. So pre that, we've got to screen the resume, and then we're looking at whether or not they can communicate. If they can communicate well, then they'll go to a second round interview. So Princess does our first round interviews, and she'll spend 15 minutes, maximum half an hour. And then
so you're not involved in first round?
No.
So you've got parameters that she's looking for. Okay. Yeah. And how many interviews would she do for a position for the first round?
We want out of 10 interviews, hopefully we'll get 3.
Okay, so you're doing the first round's 10 and then you've got a second round, and what are you looking for then?
So second round purely so one, do they know their accounting? Technical accounting. 2, cultural fit. So technical accounting, we'll hit them with some technical accounting questions, and then cultural fit. So my wife is really, really good at this stage. She's probably got a better strike rate at that compared to me.
Yeah,
she's fantastic.
Yeah. I can be very poor at that, and that's why I get other people to sit into my interviews.
So she then she can read people quite well, and so by the time they come to me, culturally they're actually very good.
Okay.
Culturally, they are someone that you would go out on the weekends with. Simple as that. And because primarily we do focus on the graduate market or people with 1 or 2 year skills, we find the ones with 3 to 4 year skills or 3 to 5 year skills, their salary expectation is through the roof.
Okay.
So unrealistic, it's not funny. So we'll just never have. I
wonder why that is. Is that because people are paying it? Okay.
Yeah, because we've got a staff shortage in Australia. If you can't find someone at, the graduate salary right now for an accountant is maybe 60, 70 grand. So if you can't find a graduate for 60, 70 grand, you would definitely more than be happy to pay 40 grand for someone who's got 5 years experience.
Okay.
40 grand for a 5 years experience is someone it's a dum-dum.
Yeah, gotcha.
They really don't have the skills.
Okay.
Because if I'm going to pay someone 40 grand, they got to be how many times better than a graduate that I can train up from scratch.
Yeah, I understand. Okay.
It's just not worth it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not worth it, especially with our training program and everything that we've got.
So you get graduates, and then you basically, I guess, show them how good of a place to work at and I guess how much growth they can get within your company, and then you maintain them long term.
Yep, and then when they get past the 2-year mark, that's when they'll start opening up to the equity bonuses that we have on offer.
Oh wow, okay. And is this a structured thing?
Well, that's what I've still got to figure out from here onwards.
Okay.
But they won't get any equity or access to the equity bonuses from the other businesses unless they stay for 2 years. So the 2 years is actually a magical time. Historically, the industry in Australia for graduate accountants say that the owner doesn't actually make any money on a graduate unless they've worked with them for more than 2 years. Yes, they've made money along the way, but if you think of how much time we have invested in their training and their development, it actually doesn't pay for our training and development.
Yep.
We would make more money just doing the job ourselves. So we really break even at the 2-year mark. So, if I can retain an accountant past the 2-year mark, we've done really well.
Okay.
If I can shorten the training time frame to get an ROI on a staff at the 3-month mark, I've done really, really well. So even though we're looking for a 6-month probation, right, we've got to bring down our ROI, shorten the ROI curve. If not, it's actually really, really hard.
Well, it's especially for scalability, right? If your ROI is 2 years, how many can you have in the pipeline at any given time?
Correct. And so it's all about recruiting well, training well, and nice training programs. So not without its room for improvements, but so far we've been able to get great hires from overseas within that 3-month ROI target, or shorter.
So I know you hire from multiple different countries. Are you able to kind of dive into that, the cultural differences, what you've learned along the way?
Yep. So we're now across Philippines, Indonesia, and Malaysia. Malaysia, we're just starting to hire now, so I can't really comment too much on that because I haven't really hired. I've worked in Malaysia, but I haven't really hired in Malaysia. The cultural differences between Malaysia and Indonesia Philippines and Indonesia are very similar. Very, very, very similar. When Indonesians come together, there's actually less competition within each other. They're actually, like I'm from Indonesia, so my parents are from Indonesia. I was born in here in Australia, but the Indonesian culture is beautiful. What holds them back is their English comprehension.
Mm-hmm.
So if the English comprehension was better, they would be on par with Philippines. That's the only thing. So right now, what we're doing heavily within our team is the ability to actually help give them a platform to learn English. Give them, weekend tutoring sessions. Only speak English. If needed, the Indonesians can share Indonesian with each other, but try not to. So it's a bit deliberate. If we've got someone who's really struggling, okay, for the next 3 months, just talk Indonesian, get them to a point of ROI, and then start phasing in English so they build up the English skills.
Okay, and it's mandatory they do tutoring and stuff like that, or?
Well, at this point, it's a bit optional, and we've got to find a better way to teach them English, because if you're looking at a price point versus the Philippines, there are not to say they're cheaper than Philippines, but for the same price you actually get a better, more experienced quality.
Okay.
So this is where
education / experience is higher, but English proficiency is lower.
Correct. It's actually interesting because they actually do one subject a semester for the whole year of English.
Yep.
for primary school and high school. But they're just not talking amongst themselves enough English.
Yeah, look, I would imagine different languages are also harder to switch. And I think I would say, you can comment on this, there's a hell of a lot of more outsourcing from the Philippines. It's a culture there, right? I think a lot of people there want to, because America, a lot goes to the Philippines, right? So there's a culture of, hey, the job opportunities in the Philippines are fairly shit. We get treated poorly. We don't make any money. If we get good at English, then we have the opportunity to have access to that larger employment market. So it's more of a culture there, whereas Indonesia, I don't think is there yet from a cultural perspective.
Not yet. So
it's not an industry there as much. It is slightly, but yeah.
if we talk about Philippines itself, over time, if you notice, if you go back in history, has been colonized multiple times by different countries, the Spanish, the Americans, the Japanese, now it's, controlled by Philippines, right? So there is this, call it this submissive culture in it, where yes sir, yes sir, yes sir, right? And they want to follow. So and at the same time, because Filipinos, when you hire a Filipino, you do not hire one person. You're hiring a family, and you're supporting an extended family. So when you understand that, when you pay them, even a graduate, you hire a graduate, that graduate will be feeding their family with what you're giving them, whether they're the eldest in the family or the young. That's why I always want to know, where in the family are they? What is the salary matrix? Is the parents working? Is the parents not working? I want to know. And this is not for any sinister motive, but me as an employer, and this is where I sort of get emotional sometimes, I want to know, when I stress at night, when I struggle at night, when I can't sleep at night, who am I doing it for? You can see that I'm a little bit emotional, right?
No, that's fantastic.
Because I'm here to transform the lives of my workers. I'm transforming the life. I want to know, is it worth it?
Mm-hmm.
Because if it's not worth it, why am I doing it? And this is the thing that it's hard for my team to actually see it. They go, oh, this is a boss. He's just so demanding. But deep down inside, it's not.
Yeah.
It's the thing that drives me forward all the time. It drives me forward. And you got to know who they are and who are they actually working, who are they working for? And in this way, I hope to create a win-win-win scenario where everyone wins. It's a triple win. And I hope that I can retain them so my training doesn't go to waste. So the key, when you understand that they are a culture of yes, 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 but they are also a culture where that yes is not born out of because they're blind to you. That is not born out of ignorance of just saying yes. It's actually born out of the fact that I've just lent money to my mum. I've given money to my mum, and my mum's lent money to the auntie, and the auntie's in hospital. They're all collecting their money to put their family through hospital because they've got diabetes, they've got pneumonia, they've got something. They're not saying yes because they're not trying to use their brain. They're saying yes because they don't want to get fired. They want that paycheck. They need that paycheck. And in doing so, they can help that extended family get through hospital.
Yeah.
You see, when you understand that pain, the responsibility is actually on us as employers to earn their trust. Why would someone be vulnerable to you if they think their vulnerability is only gonna get them sacked the next day?
Yeah, so this is brilliant. This is where I wanted to go, right? So, and I haven't found this with all employees that I've had previously from the Philippines. And I do find this culturally with a few other Southeast Asian and Central Asian countries, right? So there's the yes culture, right? But if you put that next to the potential communication barriers, there's a lot of things that can be missed, right? So you think you've explained something and they've gone yes, I can do this, and then it doesn't pan out the way I expected. And like, I'm not blaming anybody. I take responsibility. One of my number one jobs as a CEO is, to be able to communicate values, tasks, vision, all of that kind of stuff, right? So how do you combat that how do you combat that specific problem, right? So you're communicating, you think you're heard, but you're not, because of both the communication barrier and, the tendency for them not to say, sorry, can we slow down? I don't understand, or something like that. Do you have any tips or tricks to combat that specific issue?
Yep.
Because that's a huge one for me.
Do it early and do it fast. The thing is, I'm not going to be here to cry over a staff member if it's not the right staff member. I'm not here to have sleepless nights to build a better future for them if they're not worth it. I don't want to know in 3 months' time, in 6 months' time, that they're not worth it. I want to know within the first 2 weeks. So this brings it back to induction. If there's a failure to communicate, it's a failure because we as a firm haven't made it very clear during induction. This is how we communicate. Step 1, you're going to write it down. Step 2, you're going to repeat it back to me. Step 3, if you don't have any, you're going to ask questions. Step 4, you're going to be pushed during induction to fail. And only when you fail, then you know that you're not going to get sacked. Only through mistakes that you can stand up on your 2 feet. Because remember the values, right? So when we're training for values. Team of underdogs that keeps on winning. We're going to train you until you win. But during that training process, you think you're an underdog.
So you're training, just let me get this right. So you're trying to train or instill the value of things will go wrong, everything's okay, you've still got your job, we're going to pick ourselves back up and keep moving.
Correct.
Because otherwise there's that fear of, repercussions like losing your job, and you can't actually have the conversations that you need to be able to have. Correct. On a regular basis.
And the thing is, it's our values. We're only living by values, and we're only training by values, and we're hiring by everything's just value-based. So, you will win because us as a team helped you win. And by you winning, we win. We all win together as a team. I've gone through it, and someone helped me win. So I'm now doing it to you, so it helps you win. And then and the battlers that takes the punches and keep standing, bouncing back. Keep on bouncing back. It's okay. Keep on bouncing back. You never got sacked through this. This is a learning process. So when they come out of induction and they come into working in their respective departments, they're already been trained and conditioned for what it's going to be. And then it's easy. Shoot for the stars during 2 weeks, let them relax afterwards. If I had to beg you, if the first 2 weeks was a beg and a chore for me, I'm going to beg you to get productivity all throughout your career. Yeah. I'm not here to beg you to get your productivity. Mm-hmm. That's not how we hit our KPIs. That's not how I make money to bring my money and co-invest in opportunities. That's how I'm going to not make money.
Okay, so earn your place in the team, and once you're in the team, high rewards. Let's do this together.
Let's do it together. That's how we transform lives. So, we don't try to, we try to pay more than what people should be paid. So all the ones that have stayed with me more than 2 years ends up owning houses or 2 houses. Like, they're just highly paid. Full stop. They're good at what they're doing, and I'm really proud of them, and this is where it's my continual vision to give back. It's a give back. It's always a give back process. Yeah.
Cool. I appreciate you. Thanks for coming on the show.
Hey.